Welcome in to a Friday edition of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Jesse, AJ, Meghan, we're waiting on Rudo. He's got a situation like I had a couple weeks ago. He's got some folks showing up to his house, so he's needing to make sure that they get all squared away so he can jump on with you nice folks. But we didn't want to leave you all waiting, and so Rudo said, go ahead and get it started. I'll be there in just a minute. It's Friday. Rookie camp opened yesterday. We are so close to being officially out of this offseason. And really, when you look around the league, rookie tournaments have already opened. I think pretty much everyone's rookie camp has officially opened. You have guys back in town pretty much on every team doing their own skates. Feels like it was just a few weeks ago, because it kind of was. But Meghan, AJ, hockey season is back. Is there anything, just before we kind of like get into this, that you guys were specifically excited for about this season or like this upcoming week? Because training camp's always just a fun. It's a fun week. That's kind of like the official start of the season. Is there anything in particular you guys are looking forward to?
For me, this is the first season I will be doing this from the beginning to end. I kind of jumped in at the middle last year, and it was in November that I really started to pick things up, but it was focused on Eagles coverage. So I feel like I'm just excited to experience this season from this lens, doing this work at the very beginning, from training camp on. It feels exciting to be a part of a defending title team too at that point. For sure. No, yeah, the defending team adds a adds a fun element to it. How did we talk last year?
Yeah. AJ, obviously, this isn't your first season here. So now...
You're calling me old?
No, it's not my first season here either. I can call you old if you'd like. But is there something that you're looking forward to this year that maybe is different than years past, just with kind of the different approach to this season for the team?
No, I think it's the same stuff that always gets me excited about hockey season. Is the same stuff that has me excited now. Yeah. It's funny, the games themselves have always kind of been secondary for me. They aren't my favorite part of hockey. Obviously, I love watching the game and I love all that, but I love all the off-season stuff. I love all the team building, and I love all the building the puzzle around the salary cap and how guys fit in and different play styles. And I love the trying to figure out, who's going to be like your big breakout star this year. Right. Like you see the NHL's the NHL Network's doing their like top 50 players or whatever, and they've got Moritz Seider at like 41, I think. And a year ago, that would not have been a thing that anybody would have been comfortable with. And now it's like, it's probably a little aggressive for me, but also he was really good last year.
Yeah.
So, trying to figure that stuff, like I always love, as a prospect guy, as a draft guy, I always love the young player breaking into the league and ascending and all that. And I think I think it's going to be, from an Avs perspective, it's not, it's the same as last year. It's Alex Newhook, it's Bowen Byram, like, and Ben Myers also, that will be interesting. Yeah. But with it's one thing when a guy, it's like, okay, you need to kind of prove that you belong. Newhook and Byram were doing that last year, and now it's like, okay, they did that. What's next?
Yeah.
When Byram, his game went to such a place in the Stanley Cup final that it was like, holy shit, like this guy could be an absolute superstar at the position. And with Alex Newhook, you're just like, well, we didn't see that.
Right.
So what's next for that kid? And it's easy, I think, to be down-ish when you're like, oh, he wasn't really a big part of that run, and he was getting a really small role at the end, and he didn't do a ton with it, and this and that. And then you remember, like, from the moment he got drafted, he was awesome.
Yeah.
basically every step of the way except for last preseason. And then he went down to the AHL, was awesome, came back and resumed. Awesome. And so it was like that's the stuff that I think really kind of gets me excited about the game and gets me excited to go to the rink. And it's not that I take for granted that we get to watch Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar every day. I certainly don't. Those are special, and I told Dario yesterday at rookie camp, I said, when I'm old, I think Cale Makar will be the athlete that I'll look back and say, I got to watch him play.
Mm-hmm.
Like up close from the start. Like that's going to be he'll probably be the athlete that I am most enamored with at the end of my life, in the later stages of my life when I'm looking back on it and it's like, what do you take away? What do you remember? What are the things that you're thankful for? And having a life that is built around sports and stuff, it's going to be a lot of that. Cale Makar is just that special. So it's funny because it's Cale Makar and it'll probably be Nikola Jokic too, and they're happening at the same time.
Yeah. It was funny. This morning I was reminded of the video during the playoffs of that drone running into Cale Makar standing on the bench. It was just a funny memory that I had completely forgotten. But no, dude, you're right. Like I've talked about that before, how I spent so much time, in years past, being jealous of fans of teams like Pittsburgh and Washington. Like, man, you get to watch these generational players 82 games a year, forget even, practices and morning skates and stuff, but like, wow, how special that this isn't like, yeah, you got to make sure to go see them once when they roll into town because you'll never get to see them again or whatever. You get to see them every night. And then you step back and it's like, okay, Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, and then that next tier down, you got a guy like Mikko Rantanen, and it's like, we get to watch these dudes every single day, and you realize like, wow, you're not envious of, fans of Pittsburgh and Washington anymore because you don't just have one, you have two, or two bona fide superstar, depending on the time of year you ask and who you're asking, like arguably two top three players in the world. It's super special.
I mean, you've got that, but Mikko Rantanen exists.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like that guy is exceptional.
Yeah.
He is a phenomenal hockey player, and through no fault of his own, he kind of gets lost in that shuffle a little bit. It's funny because I don't think he's underrated, because I think that every fantasy hockey list, every top list of right wings, every top list of top 50 player, Mikko Rantanen is up there. He's always up there. When that NHL list gets there, if he's not in the top 15, I'll be surprised. Like, he's an exceptional hockey player. But it's just MacKinnon and Makar are like those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, and it's kind of like how
Ovi. He's super good, but
and like Letang in Pittsburgh with Malkin and Crosby, like Letang is like that third guy, and you're just like, Chris Letang has had an unbelievable career, and it kind of gets lost in that shuffle.
There's something exciting about being involved from this point in the process on for players like a Newhook and a Byram, because for someone like a Mikko, we've seen them at earlier stages of the career, remembering things like training camp and what they looked like when they first broke into the league through now. It reminded me of something Wilsey said to media yesterday about how he watched a lot of these guys through scouting in college, like Cale Makar, like JT Compher, even though he was acquired through trade. And to see them lift a cup last year is really rewarding for front office. And we get to be a part of this rookie tournament, looking at young guys and then looking ahead at someone like Newhook, hoping that this is his breakout season, in hopes that a few seasons from now, we're going to be talking about Newhook the same way we're talking about Mikko Rantanen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and yeah, because you were reading through those quotes. Like Wilsey mentioned Mikko Rantanen too, and he's another one that, yeah, he only spent 1 year in the AHL, but I think everyone kind of forgets like that is someone who went through the development process, did the dev camp, did the rookie camp stuff. Yeah, it's been super fun to watch this group come a long way. And yeah, there is just AJ, I think you mentioned it yesterday. Like I said it yesterday at camp, like it's a really weird feeling at camp. Usually you come in every year, like you're looking for like, okay, who are the guys that make the difference this year? Who can help get them over the hump? Training camp and PTOs and all that stuff. And this year it's kind of like, sweet. Can you run it back? Can you just do the same thing?
Ben Myers.
Right, yeah. And yeah, I mean, we've already kind of we've just talked a little bit more about stuff that we're excited for, and I think that than I thought, and I think it just kind of speaks to, yeah, we get the shortest off season of like any local media, and we're still ready to get back to it. Like it's just being able to like go through that run with the Avs and see them actually get to that final goal. Like, Eric Johnson did that interview with Altitude Radio yesterday or 2 days ago. And he was saying like, look, like I genuinely believe it's possible. Guys even want it more now. Like now that you've had it once, it's like you want it again. And again, it feels a little bit that way for everyone that's involved, right? Like you went through it. That was dope. This has been like,
what happens if they repeat? The picture of Eric Johnson laying in bed with the cup. Does he clone himself? Is there another Eric Johnson that they can get to hop in that bed for that picture?
Yeah, fewer sheets though, I'd imagine, for next year's photo. If EJ goes back to back, it's just that photo, but no sheets, like just full, like spread eagle with the cup. Anyways, this was meant to be like a segue.
End of pod.
Yeah, we're probably just gonna, Allie, we're gonna have to cut this one short.
Friday.
I think we've covered everything by now.
I've also learned that this tabletop is not fixed to this table. This was meant to be kind of like we're on the precipice of the season getting going. Let's talk a little bit about what what we're seeing with the Avs. We talked a lot, obviously, yesterday about what we saw on the ice. I want to get into a little bit today, at least until Rudo gets here if he has other plans. What are we expecting out of some of those guys we talked about yesterday this upcoming week? Guys like Ben Myers, Oscar Lassen, once they get back from that rookie tournament, what are we expecting out of them at main camp? And then I do want to get into a couple guys that maybe we are looking ahead to at main camp, guys like Newhook, guys like Byram, Evan Rodriguez, to kind of a different column of what we're looking for out of those vets too. But before we did that, I did want to talk just a little bit about some of the news that we're seeing circulate around the league. And I want to start, AJ, I'm going to start with you. We've talked a lot about Winnipeg this summer and how this is a season for them that they have to kind of decide where they're going. Are you stripping down this core and starting the rebuild? Do you still think you're in it? You have an elite goaltender, so you're kind of always in the fight. New coach, they're trying to figure out where they're going, and they announced today they are doing the hard reset on, I believe they called it a leadership regroup. Thank you. Yes. And Blake Wheeler no longer the captain. AJ, just obviously you have the closest ties to this organization in terms of you are married to someone who has a very big vested interest in what they do. What the frickin' F is going on in the Peg?
No, I think this writing was on the wall that Blake Wheeler was not an effective captain, certainly last year. Part of the issues that they have had, look, that's a talented hockey team. You go and you look at their roster, and when you say, oh, okay, well, you have to tear it down. Okay, well, how do you tear it down? You've got to trade Mark Scheifele. You've got to trade Pierre-Luc Dubois. At that point, why would you keep Nick Ehlers? Why would you keep Kyle Connor? Like you're talking about, okay, and then at that point, why would you keep Connor Hellebuck, who's still, who's going to be entering into that age of his career where it's like by the time you come back, by the time you come back out of irrelevance here, he could be 35 years old,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why Like, why? How much work do you have to do here? So the smart play here is try and get everybody in that room to act like an adult for once. And I think taking the C off of Blake Wheeler is a great move. Uh, I'll tell you, I don't want to get super into it, but being around, I covered both of the games in Winnipeg last year that the Avs were in. They were a couple weeks apart at the end of the season. The Avs were in complete do not give a fuck mode at that point. It could not have been cozier in their position. Just in the universe in general, they were not pressed about anything. And Winnipeg was burning. The Jets organization. I was there hanging out with Jets media for one day, and it was like hot goss left and right. Like there was. I mean, media was frustrated because of the way that players had started getting really touchy about doing interviews, and because that last year was a major disappointment for the Jets.
Yeah.
And they were all in that kind of defensive position where they were like, yeah, this has been a failure of a season, but they were still in it. So you're like, technically we're not mathematically eliminated. We're here to try and do work. We're here to try and climb out of this. We're here to, whatever, all the platitudes. And you could just tell that team didn't like each other. They didn't like playing together. It was very selfish on the ice. You would watch a guy would just change mid-shift, leave his teammate hanging out to dry, and there's an odd man rush going the other way.
Coasting
stuff
to
like
the bench
that.
and shit.
You're just talking about they were not invested in being a team. They weren't playing for each other.
Yeah.
They were hardly playing for themselves. And when Paul Maurice walked out, and then Dave Lowry took over. Dave Lowry didn't try and rock the boat. He didn't try and put his own imprint on the organization. He tried to just say, "Hey, let's just keep smooth sailing here," and which, whatever. But the leadership group clearly let them down, and Mark Scheifele took a lot of the heat for it last year. And Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler have been like BFFs for a long time. Wheels kind of got out of the way and let Mark Scheifele take that heat. Just stand in front of the firing squad of the media, and that's not what your captain should be doing. Your captain should be first in line there. And I just think this was a good move. I don't know. It feels like a half measure to me because I think that in talking with Z earlier today, I likened it to being at any other job, right? And you have a project manager, and the project isn't going the way that the company wants. So they take the project manager off of the thing, but he's still part of the project. But they don't name a new manager. And so now you kind of have like this like headless unit sort of wandering around in the dark, trying to figure out who's going to step up, who's going to be the voice in that room, who's going to be the adult, who's going to take the reins. And I'm curious to see kind of what becomes of this, but they've got deeper issues than that. But I think this was a good move. I think that this was a necessary move to start with, and Wheeler just had proven himself to be ineffective the last couple of years. When things went south, it was, I'm either not going to be accountable, I'm not going to be standing in front of the media answering questions, taking the heat for this. I'm going to let my teammates eat this on my behalf, or I'm going to be a guy that makes a lot of excuses. And that's just that's not how you lead. It's not effective leadership. And it's not that hard to lead when things are going well. You're out in front. You get to take credit for a lot of things. You're playing great hockey. It's, oh man, we're good, and there's this, there's that. But Wheeler just was not. He did not handle it very well. And Scheifele's always been kind of a sensitive guy. So him being the one that had to own and wear a lot of the Jets' failures last year really dug at him, I think. Yeah. And we're going to see kind of what he's made of this year. How does he respond? How does he respond to that adversity? How does he own that? Does he build himself back up and have a great year and bounce back and show everybody that, hey, this isn't such a character question? Or does he kind of fold into himself a bit and, withdraw and have another poor season, and he can't handle it. He can't handle that pressure and that criticism and that heat. And he does become a very polarizing and divisive guy, because going into a free agency, in 2 years, what do you make of a guy like that? So it's a really big year for the Jets to they really, really need to figure out who and what they are now.
So 2 things there with what you said. We talked yesterday, right, on yesterday's show about how hard it is to truly build like a championship culture, if you will,
Yeah.
right? Like that true winning mentality where you show up to the rink, you expect to win. You're not fazed by getting down. Again, look, obviously it's easy to point to the Avs, but even the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? That's a team that on paper wasn't as good as some of the teams they knocked off. Like they just weren't on paper. But they had that mentality. They get down 2-0 against the Rangers, and you could just tell in the way they played. They weren't fazed. It didn't bother them. And that comes from strong leadership in the room. And that's something that has to be built over several years. And Drew here in the comments kind of beat me to the second point. I'll say the second thing I wanted to call out was you mentioned Blake Wheeler, and it's easy to be a good leader when things are going well. You go back to that 48-point season, Jared Bednar's first year as the Avs head coach. That, to me, is where this culture really started. Obviously, there was a lot of ups and downs that year, but it was exactly what Drew in the comments said of after every game. AJ, I remember us talking about this on the shows in the media school. You'd go into that locker room after every game, and during the 48-point season, most of them were losses. And Gabe Landeskog stood there and answered every last question and it wasn't just Gabe Landeskog. It was a lot of guys on the team. They answered every question. They took accountability. They didn't throw anyone under the bus. They didn't say, well, Patrick Waugh left and we have these new guys and it's a new coach. And It would have been really
easy. The guys
easy.
who turned it around were the ones that were still standing at their stalls saying, we got problems here.
Yep. And again, like you saw it. Sorry, Megan, you saw it there at the very, very beginning of that next season. Again, I mentioned it yesterday. The team talks about that Sweden trip. The Duchesne trade had happened. Sam Girard is here. And they kind of looked around the room and said, this is it. This is the group right here that we are going to build a championship team out of. And they did in just 5 years. It's hard to build that culture, and the Jets are a great example of a team that can be extremely talented but still suck because you don't have the right direction. Megan, sorry, I cut you off.
I think, too, this is where we give a lot of credit to the future thinking that the front office had, even in drafting Landeskog, bringing him into the picture and recognizing that the core that was once thought to be a Duchesne and O'Reilly could actually revolve around a player like Landeskog. And it also emphasizes the importance of strong captaincy because at such a young age, they viewed him in that role. And it's because of his ability to adapt in adversity and be a strong captain, I think that he deserves a lot of credit for. And it's the reason that he's the captain of a Stanley Cup winning team now.
He's an emotional leader for sure.
It started there. He saw the Avs through some of their roughest years, and he took on that responsibility at an incredibly young age that 19. It's almost impossible to believe. And he saw it through to a Stanley Cup winning team. And I think that deserves a lot of credit. And it's kind of coming back to this consistency that needs to happen over a long time. Like, it makes me think of Vegas and how there are no quick fixes. If there's a culture problem, you can't circumvent the cap your way into an immediate resolution. And that's what the Jets are facing right now, is having to dismantle before rebuild begins. And I think that's going to take time, but it starts with a commitment. And I think that's where you start to untool and undo some of the things that were not working.
Yeah, I definitely think that these are the Megan, you bring up Vegas, but Vegas, Winnipeg, great examples of talent isn't enough.
Yeah.
And it's like in life, right? Like you get into a really bad relationship with somebody that you deeply care about. Love isn't enough. Mm-hmm. You have to work at it. There has to be work put into making things go the way that you want them to. And when it comes to building a hockey team, you can't just be like, that guy's good, that guy's good, that guy's good. Great, we're going to be good. Like, if they don't like playing together, if they don't fit a style, and this is where Paul Maurice, I think, hurt them, because Paul Maurice has not been an effective NHL head coach the majority of his tenure, and he's one of the longest tenured head coaches in NHL history. And he has not been a very good head coach. And why that ended up, he ends up with getting to coach the President's Trophy team, I think is going to be a fascinating litmus test for that. But with like the Jets, with Vegas, you're just talking about how you operate as an organization matters. How you treat your players, how your players treat each other, the culture that you set up day to day, living and breathing as a member of that organization, it matters. And it was a thing that was a big issue in Colorado for a long time. The weird thing, the thing that happened in Colorado that will always shock me is that guys who were part of the leadership group when it was bad became part of the leadership group when it was good. Because that's not a normal thing that happens. Normally, you're like, we got to clean this out. But they believed, guys like Landeskog, guys like EJ, when the Avs had opportunities to move on from them when they were rebuilding, those guys said, we want to be part of the answer here. We want to figure out how to do this the right way. And they flipped that script. That's really hard to do.
The makeup of a team is so important, and it's part of the reason why you've heard guys like Nathan McKinnon say that he didn't want to be captain, that it was Landy, and you've heard guys say, yeah, we need Landy here to keep McKinnon in check. Your best player isn't always your leader. You got to have your leaders. Speaking of team members, we've added one. Rudo's here. I was about to do the first ad break. I'll do the first one, then I'm turning this back over to you after.
I just want to know why that background.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's like I was caught in traffic.
All right, I like it. Yep, I like it.
I wasn't, but
you could have been. Well, this is the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. Jesse, Meghan, AJ, and now the man himself, Rudo. Brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. We're also brought to you guys by Evoca TV. I swear, I'm talking with people about Evoca like 5 days a week right now as we're getting closer to the season.
Yeah.
Just everyone's looking for that solution for Avs and Nuggets, and Evoca has it. They deliver amped-up sports coverage for Colorado fans featuring Altitude, AT&T Sportsnet, and NFL Network. Plus, I was actually in their channel lineup today. You're going to get all those major national channels that are going to have all your Broncos games. So really, Evoca TV, if you are a Denver sports fan, this is the only place to go. Over 60 entertainment channels, including news, movies, plus so much more. Evoca is only $25 a month plus your $5 receiver fee. Right now, Colorado sports fans can get $10 off per month for their first 3 months. All you have to do is go to evoca.tv/Colorado10. That's evoca.tv/Colorado10. And they've got Altitude. That really could be the whole read. Get Evoca. They've got Altitude. Watch the Avs and Nuggets with the click of a button. Starting here in just a couple weeks, because Nuggets get going like right around the same time as Avs, yeah?
I think I saw a tweet today that said they're 31 days from the open of the NBA season.
So shit, like 3 or 4 days behind, yeah.
Yeah, they usually, their training camp and their preseason is a little bit different. They're usually like a week or two behind the Avs.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you get hooked up with Evoca. It's the best price. It's the best picture, and it's all the best sports. We're also brought to you guys by Breckenridge Brewery, and they have a birthday coming up, 32, and they're throwing a weekend-long hootenanny. Kick off the fall with live music, food, beer, obviously, and games October 8th and 9th at the Littleton location. They've got national acts like the Spin Doctors and local favorites like Railroad Earth rocking out. So stay tuned to everything. DNVR for the hootenanny giveaways leading up to October 8th. Breckenridge Brewery is the official beer of DNVR. Rudo, take back over for this second period.
Well, first of all, pick of the week for everybody. right now, you can bet on McKinnon to win the Hart at plus 1,000.
I'm
Or you
doing
can
it.
bet on McCarr to win the Hart at plus 1,500.
No, it's
Ooh.
McKinnon's year.
So either way, pretty darn good odds. Good options as far as Avs bets to be making on individual players right there. I think McCarr for the Norris is like plus 175. It's not even very good odds. So Hart might be the way to go for betting on the Avs individuals this year. But you can go over to DraftKings right now. Use code DNVR when you sign up to get amazing odds boosts every single day. You can bet $5 on any NFL game and get $200 in free bets instantly with that new account and the DNVR code. So do that. Take those free bets. Maybe bet them on McKinnon to win the Hart. That's all I'm saying. Jump on it that way. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right. I don't know what you guys have talked about already.
I realized that halfway through your pick of the week. I was like, I told him to take over, and he has no idea what we're talking about.
Did you guys see Roger Federer retired?
No.
Good for him.
Yeah, he's retiring after the Laver Cup. So
What a career.
I know. I was looking at the numbers this morning. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was awake for some unknown reason. And I was going through his career, and I was just like, my God, my entire adulthood has been spent watching Roger Federer shred tennis. And then, like, the Rafa showed up, and then Djokovic showed up, and he had the 3 greatest men's tennis players of all time at the same time. A lot of fun.
Well, he's one of those guys that, like, you never thought he'd actually retire.
It's
like he's played forever. You assume he'll always play forever. That's crazy.
Well, and it was just I remember he was like 37, 38, and he's like watching him at like the US Open, and you're like, he's still doing things to like these younger dudes that are trying to replace him, trying to be the next generation. And Rex is also upset that Feds is retiring, but just the grace that he played with and everything that he was as a professional. It was like the model of like what you think a professional athlete should be. He was, gracious with his time, was really active with charities and spending time with kids and giving back to the game, and was just an incredibly easy athlete to watch and appreciate and root for in his time. Was not my favorite to actually watch. He was never my favorite tennis player, but one of those guys that it was impossible to watch his career and not appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's crazy that we're getting into this like point in our lives where ultra generational talents and stuff are retiring. It's really it's
people that have been like my generational talent, right, are starting to hang them up and move on, and now people who are born in the 2000s are taking over, and I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna be upset to see like guys like Sidney Crosby retire, where it's like, whoa, I watched this dude's entire career. Anyways, let's get back on track over here. What I was wanting to get into now was, again, we talked about some of these kids yesterday, how they looked on the ice. We're going to be talking about them a lot relative to their peer group over the weekend, and we'll have a big live show watch along thing on Monday. But I want to project a little bit here. And if there's anybody in particular that maybe you guys are thinking of as of right now, and maybe we'll have some different answers on Monday, but in terms of the guys who are going to be at this rookie tournament next week, for me, my guy is Sampo Ranted. I'm going to be really watching closely once we get to main camp. So I just want to know, are there any guys from this weekend that you are going to have a special vested interest in once they get on the ice with the vets? And is there anything in particular that you are maybe expecting out of? I expect to see, hypothetically, Shane Bowers show up and, look like he's on his last chance. Is there anything in particular about these young guys that stands out to you guys about main camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think just because he's going to be on the team and we don't know what he is in the NHL, like Ben Myers has to be like the center of that interest. Because it's not like, oh, well, can Sampo make the team? Can he make a case for the team? Can he put himself in a position to be one of the first called? No, like Ben Meyers is going to be on team. So it's like, oh, okay, what the hell is he? Because if he can successfully be that 3C, and be a 30-point guy and win faceoffs and be defensively responsible and all that, that's a free player that they got just by convincing him to be an Av. Yeah. and you are talking like, look, like they're right now, it looks like, if we put Rodriguez in as 2C, then you have a third line combination of something of Newhook, Myers, and Comfer. And on paper, it's a really interesting third line. It's 3 centers. So they're very interchangeable. It'll work really nicely with the way that the Avs kind of play the game, where it's very fluid and guys don't play like very like strict, like he's a left wing, so he's only on the left side ever. Like the Avs play a little more fluid than that. But anyway, like I just think that with Myers, how quickly he hits the ground running, and to what level. Because look, if it doesn't work with Myers, and that's he's a fourth line guy, or he's a healthy scratch, where do you go? Because the Avs spent all their money bringing the guys back, but they did it at the cost of the depth. There's no Nico Sturm waiting on the other side there. There's no Tyson Jost at the end of that lineup. There's no Nicholas Aube-Kubel at the end of that lineup. Curtis McDermott is first in line right now anyway. He's first in line at both forward and defense. If something happens, if there's an injury or there's an underperformance of some kind, like Curtis McDermott right now is your guy, is your next up. And McDermott was fine last year, but on the fourth line, like, okay, now which guy? Is it going to be LOC? Is it going to be Cogliano? Is it going to be Helm? One of the downsides of bringing back that entire group is that none of those guys can moonlight really as third line players. Logan O'Connor had an exceptional 2 weeks last year where it was like, oh my God, what's happening here? But beyond that, none of those guys at this point in their careers belong anywhere other than a fourth line. And so Ben Meyers' success or failure this year is going to be really important. So I think he's the easy answer. He's the obvious answer, that because I decided to jump the line this time.
Love it.
I get to steal the easy answer. Ben Meyers is just that important. He's a really important guy for the Avs this year.
Important is a good word, I think, to associate with him. Not just like exciting, they're high. Like, no, he is an important player. He's an important guy looking for what they're looking to do in their bottom six. Meghan, Rudo, anything from the guys who will be skating this weekend that you're anxious to see how they look when they get to camp?
So I have to pick someone from the rookie tournament. We'll do the main camp roster here in a sec. Okay. From this tournament, I would really like to see one of the further away forwards, I'll say, take a step. I don't really care which one. I mean, I'd love to see all of them take a step, but I think it's probably Foodie or Bocage are the ones that need to take a step. And I'm not saying, they need to look like they're ready for the NHL.
Right.
But I would love to see them get into some preseason games. I would love to see them look like they can handle the game at pseudo NHL speed. Because we see all the time these kids, you can do it at the junior speed. Then you get to the AHL, you can do it at the AHL speed. And then you get into NHL preseason, which is probably closer to quadruple A player than actual NHL talent. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's too fast. They can't think the game quick enough, and it all falls apart.
I love that for Foodie too, because he's a couple months younger than Olausson, but is entering his third year in the AHL. So there's some question mark of, well, how would he play at this pacing then at this point? He is so young. We've talked about his track a lot, but I'd be curious to see him at NHL pacing and how he would adapt. But, you talk to any of these players, and especially like an Olausson or a Ranta, their goal is to make the Avs team, even though we've talked about the realities of that and even the room or the role that is actually available just not being there. That's what they want. And so I'm curious to see what they do in the tournament to emphasize that, especially Olausson, because I think the recent World Juniors got him really close to game ready and got him in game action so close that he's coming into this tournament. And I think he looks pretty polished compared to some of the other players because of that recent gameplay. So I'm looking at Olausson to really pop in this tournament because he looked strong in day one.
I would also make the point that while that's a good goal for those guys to have, they don't really want to accomplish it. I don't, especially Olausson. If he made the NHL roster immediately, he's going to be healthy scratched every night, and that's not going to do much for him. Sampo, I don't know what that would do, but you are kind of in the weird spot where it's like, do you really want to be the 13th forward that's very clearly not going to play barring injury?
I don't want that for them, right? It's detrimental.
Yeah,
Maybe they can't say it out loud, but another year in the AHL would benefit both of them.
Well, it's like if you're like if you know you have you have Curtis McDermott as your guy, right? He counts as your 13th forward. You carry an extra defenseman of whichever one you want into the start of the season, and then if there's an injury, if you want to get a Ranta into a game, then what you do is you call up Sampo Ranta and you put him into a game.
The scenario where those guys make the NHL, it can't be like, all right, well, they made the team, good for them. It needs to be like they played so well, they literally stole someone's job.
Yeah. And Sampo is the one for me. It's because of what he said. It's a little bit of a combination of what he said and then what AJ was just kind of talking about, where I asked him, what's your goal for yourself? And he had been talking already about I improved my defensive game. I've done some video work. I've done this, that, and the other. And so I was expecting him to say something along those same lines, like, oh, well, I just want to show that I can be solid. And without missing a beat, he said to make the Avalanche. That's my goal. What I want to see out of him is, wow, he played well enough that he could have made it. We're going to send him down to keep improving on so many things that he did well. And then, put himself in that position to be the first call-up. He's kind of the one that I'm watching. But, Rudo, I really liked your answer, too, because, there's a lot of these guys that we talk about. And the four of us kind of internally, we all kind of have, mentally where we see them, how far they are. And to me, a guy like Foodie and to a little bit lesser extent, Bocage, those are guys that you dream on, right? You're like, wow, if that player can turn into a full-time NHLer here in the next few years, great. Especially with a guy like Foodie, who we've gotten a couple looks at, like the things he does. You want to see, are you still progressing? Are you still getting better? Are you still getting closer to that goal of being an NHLer? Or are you really just kind of turning into, a good AHL player? Can you be at least showing positive signs of moving in the right direction? I think that's a really good answer.
And look, the reality is both Andrew Cogliano and Darren Helm are 35.
Yeah.
I get it. They're running it back this year. Great. You can't keep doing that forever. Beyond that, McKinnon's contract is another thing that's popped back up on the radar recently. If he's making $13-14 million, it gets a lot harder to pay some guys in your bottom six, $1.2 million. Yeah. You need some of those ELCs to come provide value for you. So while it might not be this year, like you said, it's important that those guys are taking the steps to help you in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, just as a counterpoint, that we've seen guys do that, though, and it hasn't mattered. Because look at last year as an example. Martin Kaut has turned himself into a really good, really consistently effective AHL player. Hasn't mattered. Mikhail Maltsev.
I get it. I don't really want to get into this conversation of the Avs choices here again with who they put in their bottom six, but those options are still valuable.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that you do want to see them continue to take steps forward, but I think you want to see the organization continue to take steps forward too, because
I agree.
If Sampo Ranta has an unbelievable preseason and you send him down, and you say, look, we loved what you did, we just don't have the room right now or whatever, you never know how a guy is going to take that. It could destroy the kid's confidence, where he's looking at it and saying, I just did everything. what more could I have done to have made the NHL roster, and it still wasn't enough. He could take that hit where emotionally you can have a guy where it's like, God, that's really hard. It's not like with Newhook.
That kind of gives you an answer right there on who that player is.
I don't think it does, because like with Newhook last year, he didn't have a good enough preseason.
Right.
He was hanging around because he was Alex Newhook. When they sent him down, there was a lot to show him where they say, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And he took it like a champ and was like, yeah, I got to do those things. And he went and did them. But if a guy goes out and like balls out and he is everything that you want, and you don't keep him, you do worry about like, how does he take that?
I think as long as you're contextualizing it correctly and you follow through on an idea of, look, we don't have room, but first injury, you're the guy.
Yeah.
As long as the organization does that, because you remember when Andrei Mironov was here,
again,
they told him that.
I understand the Avs shortcomings. I do.
We just don't have room. And then they pulled the ripcord, and he was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, but and again, like even the Kaut thing, like typically when you see that though, it's because like when they called up Andrei Mironov, was he any good?
For some of those games.
He was okay.
He was fine. I've talked about this recently. He had a 10-game stretch. He played, I believe, 10 games for the Avs. He was really bad in a couple of them. He was really good in a couple of them. And then he was fine in all the others.
He took a couple dangerous penalties.
Yeah, well, he was fucking King Lowbridge. So he had to just learn he couldn't do that in North America. That's not allowed. But it's what I'm saying is like, if you're going to tell a guy that he's got to do something from an organization standpoint, they've got to live up to that too. And that's where I'm not trusting of it, but I want to see Sampo. I want to see all these guys. Obviously, I want to see Sampo go out this weekend and have a hat trick every single game.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Sampo take over and dominate. I want to see him run people over. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that for him because, that's great for the Avs if they have that.
I liked Rudo's answer about Bocage too, because we understand what that would mean for Bocage is different than it would mean for Raanta, but even Bocage has to solidify what his role in the AHL lineup is going to be, and this tournament is an opportunity to make a case for an elevated role just within the Eagles. And I feel like it is a redemption moment for me advocating for him being in the top 10 on the prospects pyramid, because I genuinely think there are flashes of skill there that deserve a little bit of credit, and this tournament could help bolster why I said that in the first place or make me look really embarrassed.
To be honest with you, without all the college guys here, he's got a big opportunity.
Yep, he's here. He can make an impression.
He's gonna be an Eagle this year. Like he's gonna be in the AHL. All those kids that are gonna be whatever we might think are higher up on that list or whatever. They're all in college still. So he's got the opportunity in front of him, and I said it yesterday. That's the best I've ever seen him live.
Rosio and Steinberg higher for reasons like the ceiling for them I see a little bit higher than what I'm seeing for Bocage, but I want to give him some credit. I feel really bad for him.
I mean, he's kind of caught in a weird numbers game.
Yeah.
But again, this is a numbers game that the Avs continue to put themselves in.
Yep.
And that's where
FD.
Very quickly, I wanted to mention Zhuravlyov too. He might have some of the most opportunity here just because there aren't any other genuine prospects on the defensive side. If he has a good camp, he could put himself in an 8th, 9th defenseman call-up situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, like if he, I think it would be hard to put himself ahead of Jacob McDonald, but if your defenseman hierarchy ends up being Curtis McDermott, Jacob McDonald, and Danilo Zhuravlyov, things have gone well for Little Z. And if he can put himself in that, and I've said this before, but I also think some of it will matter who gets hurt, who they're replacing. Because if they're replacing Josh Manson, you don't want to call up Jacob McDonald because that doesn't give you anything that you needed. So that's where I think good in his own zone, effective moving pucks out of his own zone and moving it forward. That's where you want to go. That's what you want to see from him. Any level of physicality you will take. He's not 160 pounds. I will fight this to the death.
Okay, so I actually was reflecting on this last night, and I do think the roster we were granted was current weigh-ins, because I was looking at Olauson's WJC weight and his Eagles weight, and it has changed for Foodie as well. Like, Foodie put on weight this summer. So that is what is confusing about Lil Z's, is I think that is a current weight, but it does not make any sense to me. But also, to what we were saying about him positively, that is also an opportunity for him to demonstrate why he would be on a middle or top pairing with the Eagles and a PK guy, because they're going to need it with the departure of McEwen, Gilbert, and Gross. I don't expect Z to have an offensive upside like Gross and replace that in any way, but they're definitely going to need a PK guy with Gilbert gone, and that's a great opportunity for Lil Z to demonstrate in this tournament that he could take on that responsibility.
For the record, Nate Klurman too. I mean, Rudo keeps fucking throwing dirt on that guy's career, but
hey, I had him as one of my standouts yesterday.
He refuses to die.
Off screen, gun to head.
I'm telling you, Nate Klurman, man, that his 9th year after he gets drafted, he's gonna break in.
The thing is,
gonna be the next Devon Taves. He's gonna be 27-year-old breakout in the NHL.
I maybe could be convinced of that in another organization, but the way the Avs have their defense set up and they just move pucks so aggressively, it's going to be hard for him.
Yeah, it is.
You guys were just talking about weight. I can't believe Yuri Slavkovsky is 230 pounds, by the way, which is crazy.
Right.
Did you see him skate with his head down into traffic last night? And whoever it was tried to smoke him and just bounced off of him, and it was like, so that guy's a tank.
I saw this Canadians reporter tweeting out, like, here's a video of Slavkovsky taking it 1-on-5, and he gets, like, stripped and the puck's going the other way. I was like, weird highlight to pick. That was him trying to go 1-on-5, and it predictably didn't go well.
Yeah. The big highlight, him chasing down that puck in the corner. He won the foot race where he started, like, a full body behind, and he caught that dude, out-muscled him for a puck, got it, centered it, and then they scored immediately. And it was like, all right, little superstar, we see you.
One to round this show out, just kind of what everyone thinks, what everyone's looking for with the vets. Rudo, do you want to do one more ad read, then just kind of take us home?
Yeah, so we are brought to you by the Colorado Golf Association. You can go over to their website, Colorado Golf Today, and get signed up for a membership to get a bunch of great deals at a number of different courses around Colorado. They're also just, super awesome. So highly recommend if you're a golfer, which I don't do any of you golf? It's a pretty normal hockey thing to be a golfer, but I don't know that any of you do.
I don't, and everybody asks me if I need to start golfing because enough people have asked me, like, oh, do you golf? I need to, but I don't.
I used to.
Yeah, you have a hole-in-one, right, AJ?
I do.
Hate you.
I took lessons when I was little, but I was really bad.
I hear you can drive the hell out of a golf cart, though.
Did you know at Topgolf, if you throw your club over the ledge, they won't do anything about it?
It's just there forever?
There's a netting. It'll catch it.
Okay.
Why do you know
we
that?
are not going to Topgolf.
What?
Jesus Christ. You push them over the edge of Topgolf, they won't do anything?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Meghan.
Just have to know the rules.
Yeah. You just have to know how to get away with stuff.
Anyway. The
After
CGA
grasshopper genocide and all the knives that she's apparently hiding around the city.
We're not doing that.
The CGA allows you to play many different exclusive golf clubs, including Aspen Glen, the club at Ravenna, the Pinery, and many, many more. So check it out today. When you go to sign up for a membership at coloradogolf.org, you can use the code DNVR5 to get $5 off. We're also brought to you by Athletic Greens, something that Meghan and Jesse actually do. You can get some of that today from athleticgreens.com/avalanche. It's got 75 different vitamins and minerals, a bunch of probiotics and adaptogens, and all of this good stuff for your body, your immune system. People use it to help with that. They use it as their pre-workout routine. Many athletes use it as just part of their daily routine to keep them looking good, feeling good. So highly recommend you check it out. A lot of us here quietly use it as a great hangover cure because we kind of do work at a bar. So it's part of it too. You can check it out at athleticgreens.com/avalanche today. And when you order, it comes with a year's supply of vitamin D. So take control of your health and get yourself some Athletic Greens.
Accidentally nothing.
Look,
so this is third period, and really, guys, like I just wanted to head into the weekend just with everyone's thoughts of we got main camp coming up. We got to see some of the vets on the ice next week. Who is the guy or guys that you're keeping a special eye on? Believe it'll be Thursday when they actually hit the ice. That you're just wanting to see, hey, look, it's only been 2 months since we saw you, but have any of these guys taken a step? Are they filling a new role? Who is it that you guys are looking at?
For me, it's Josh Manson.
Interesting. Wow.
Because the new lease on life that he had, that has to last. If he is the Josh Manson that was in Anaheim, or even the Josh Manson that was in Colorado during the regular season, that contract is going to be a problem, and it's going to be a problem right away. They really are banking that postseason Josh Manson is the one that they're going to get as an Av, and if that's the guy that they get, they're thrilled. Because he was aggressive, he fit their style. He did what they wanted him to do. He was physical, he was mean, it's hard to play against. He was good defensively, he handled his business, provided a really stable partner for Sam Girard when they were together, but added the dynamic element of he had a little offensive jump to him. There was a little bit. And it wasn't like it was, oh, I'm just throwing pucks at the net and good things are happening. He was making things happen. He was activating. He's jumping into plays. He is creating. Who's the guy that McKinnon is trying to pass the puck to on the Stanley Cup winning goal? He's the third guy there.
Yeah,
like Josh Manson was exceptional in the postseason for what they paid for him, for what they wanted. That role, if he continues to do that, and he might be their sixth defenseman this year by ice time. He might end up as their sixth D, as a $4 million guy. And I mean, it would make perfect sense. But him next to Sam Girard, they were so good together that what their pairings and Josh Manson, like how they end up allotting that ice time, what their pairings actually end up being, I think is going to be a really interesting thing. But the Josh Manson gamble, it hasn't really gotten talked about a lot because we were all so happy with him in the postseason, and it just worked out, and then they signed him, and it was a fine contract, and everybody kind of was just like, yeah, okay, this all makes sense. But like, there is risk here. He's 30 years old already. Josh Manson has to be the guy that he was in the postseason. If he's the guy that he was in the regular season, they're going to have a problem. It's one thing to have Jack Johnson making $750K, providing you with play. You can't spend $4 million and be wrong. You've got to get surplus value out of those guys. Those are the contracts that sink teams all the time. So Josh Manson, for me, it's Josh Manson. I want to see big, mean, physical, aggressive Josh Manson, but also I'm here to vibe. I get to play offense now. They let me do things with the puck. They want me to jump in the play. Let's go ham, fam.
Yeah. I love that.
Meghan?
Well, to the Manson point, I'm just hoping to see healthy Sam Girard. Like, we expect that he's healthy, but I just hope that that's evident in how he's playing. And then cop-out answer is Georgiev, how he's looking, first impression. And how he's looking after a week of camp with Parkla and the stylings and teachings of that coaching and experience, and how that gets him looking for just before the season.
I don't think that's a cop-out answer. I think that's a good one because, I mean, like when you look at this team, there really aren't, because they are running back a Stanley Cup winning team, like there's not a ton of areas where it's like, well, how is this going to work out? But Georgiev is definitely one of them where you're wondering, what do we have here? Is this Georgiev from 3-4 years ago when he first broke in and everyone was saying one of the next big number ones? Or is this the guy that the Avs torched for like 6 goals last year? You know what I mean? Like, you got to figure that out. And then the point there with Parkula is another. He seemed to have some magic touch in the last few years. It'll be interesting to see what he gets out of Georgiev, which I'm really looking forward to writing all year.
It's their biggest question mark going into the season. Like, again, everybody kind of just shrugged and was like, oh, the Avs just make good decisions, so it's whatever. But, like, this was a guy that was in a sub-900 save percentage backup last year, who has gotten a little bit worse every year of his NHL career, who is now the starting goaltender for the defending Stanley Cup champions. This is a huge storyline. It's a huge storyline. Georgiev is it's like the right answer.
Rudolph, you're muted.
Yeah.
Damn it. The other obvious answer here is the 2C guys, right? We know it's probably Erod's job to lose, but I'm really curious to see how they rotate guys in, especially, look, the first preseason game is actually 2 preseason games. Do they send Newhook to Minnesota? Do they keep Erod here? Do they give them both opportunities? How does JT Compher rotate into that situation? Are they going to give Mikko time at 2C again? There's a lot of things that I think people have all just kind of decided, oh, well, Erod will be the 2C. I think it's his job to lose, but I don't know that it's that clear cut.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Newhook is my answer. He kind of falls into that, 2C guys. Because again, I really do, like, I'm putting a lot of stock in. He had a really good rookie year, and we at times forgot that it was his rookie year. We wanted to see the more responsibility dropped on him in the playoffs. He didn't get it. And in my eyes, that's okay. This is a first-year player you're talking about. But now you're in your second year. You've gone through that Stanley Cup run. I talked to Justus Annunen yesterday, and he said how valuable it was for him just to be able to be around the team during that, let alone a guy like Newhook or Byram, who got to live it, be part of it every day, you're in the games. How much has that had an impact on Newhook, and is he ready to take that next step and really start working towards that 2C, where when you see the injuries, it is kind of the knee-jerk reaction. Yep, you put Newhook there. We think he can handle it in smaller and smaller bites. I just want to see, has he taken any steps in the last 2 months, drawn on any of that experience to push his game to the next level? Watching him at that captain's skate yesterday, obviously it's the captain's skate and it's really low impact and all that stuff, but man, he was shooting the puck. And again, kind of like Olausen, that's the skill about Newhook, that you're like, if you can do that at that level, you're going to give yourself a fighting chance to be an effective player. So for me, it's Newhook.
For the record, to respond to the guy in chat that said, except for the playoffs when Georgiev posted a .935 save percentage, 2 relief appearances, less than 60 minutes played.
But they were less than 60 minutes.
So
it's not that it's not good. Like, yeah, that is a good save percentage, but
yeah, he had in those appearances, he had 19 saves on 20 shots and 10 saves on 11 shots. So
yeah,
Avs just use him
as
as a relief
if that's
goaltender.
what you're putting your hope on.
Gonna champion the idea of the reliever in the NHL.
Yeah, Frankie becomes their opener. He plays the first period of playoff games, and then Georgiev comes in.
I don't think that's
closes it out. That's pretty much all I got. Rudo, this is your show, man. If you had anything else to add, I'm out of
It's
shit.
our show, first of all.
Show.
It's not my show.
Well, I know, but you drive the bus on most days.
No, I think you're good. I mean, I'm assuming you guys talked about some of the other news and stuff off the top.
We talked about Wheeler, what's going on in Winnipeg. And, we mentioned the Nathan McKinnon went on 32 Thoughts and gave a little more of an update. And it's about it. Yeah. The only thing that, I guess I don't know if we need to get into it, especially now at an hour and 5, especially since we just talked about it. But obviously the 3 quotes that have come out, Makar, McKinnon, McDavid, when asked about Hockey Canada. 2 of the guys, I thought all 3 guys tried to avoid.
I didn't see that.
What did who?
McKinnon say?
He said, look, I haven't really been privy to all the details, but what happened is wrong. Like, that's the only thing there is. I don't remember exactly. I think he said that's the main thing. Like, he made the point of like, look, I haven't been talked to about it. Like, I don't know much. I know as much as everyone else, but all I know is whatever happened was not okay. And that's the only thing that really matters. Makar said there needs to be changes. And then McDavid comes out and says, it's terrible for everyone. I love playing for Hockey Canada. It's horrible for everyone. And it's just one of those things where, again, like, I don't necessarily think that Connor McDavid needs to like be shipped to Antarctica for that. But it's like, bro, if that was your answer, like, just don't say anything. Like, it's tone deaf. Like, come on, man.
It is interesting to compare that response to what LeBron James had to say about the Robert Sarver suspension in the NBA.
He came out hard against.
Where he came out and was
light.
Like, it's a joke. It's not enough. This is unacceptable in our league. We can't let this stand. And, you know, I just thought that was, I don't know. I'm very pro LeBron James. So
ever since the movie Trainwreck, I'm a big LeBron James guy. He's hilarious in that movie.
I don't know about that China stuff, but we don't have to get into that.
We'll talk about this off air, but fair enough. Like, I think it's fair. I think it's fair enough.
I found those 3 quotes interesting to me because all 3 guys, you could tell, have been instructed like, hey, don't tread too far into those waters. Like, don't say anything that is going to put you in the middle of it. So you could tell that all 3 guys are trying to dance around it. And 2 of those guys were able to do that while still simultaneously condemning what happened and the investigations and what's going on. And the other guy just kind of danced around it all together. And I just thought it was interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, McDavid also doesn't get very much benefit of the doubt after how he handled all the Evander Kane conversations.
Yep.
All the what?
Where he got really defensive and was like, oh, if you guys don't like it, more or less get over it.
Wait, the what conversations?
Evander Kane.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said the Banner King. I was like, the Banner King conversations. Like, I am not familiar with who's the Banner King.
Nashville Predators?
Yeah. No, I mean, do you see the picture of the ice that they laid down in Ball Arena? You notice that they've already shifted the banners up top. Yep. And it's like, if you're the Nuggets, do you feel just a little bad here that this organization has only been in town since '96 and has quadruple the banners that you do?
And half the Nuggets banners are like kind of fluff anyways. It's like,
well, like one of them is like the number of games that Doug Moe coached.
Right.
And you're like,
yeah. Did you see that tweet? Oh, sorry. The
important ones.
Oh, sorry. Oh my God.
No. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
It's really not important. It was the funny tweet about the Suns using imported Swiss water like Colorado used because it's durable and makes them faster. But it's a joke, but it was funny. They showed the ice being laid out for the Suns.
It got a lot of Suns?
Yeah, like they're saying they're using imported Swiss water just like Colorado used.
Oh, I thought you said the Suns. I was thinking ASU, like that.
Oh, no.
Interesting. That is funny. Okay, yeah.
I missed all of this. I was playing lawn mowing simulator all night.
Cool. Yeah, that's all I've got.
Yeah, the only other thing, we're 40 minutes away from a rookie tournament game 1 for the Avs against San Jose.
Yes, streamed on the Avs site. People keep messaging us about it.
Yep.
Yes, it's going to be streamed on the Avs site. All of them.
It will be on the San Jose
if it's not on
as well.
Yeah, if it's not on the Avs site, it will be on the other team's site because that's just how this runs now.
Yep. So we'll be watching. I will have a post-game review for you. Should be fun. I think Meghan is doing a post-game article. So if you're a reader, be sure to go check that out.
Tomorrow night's game, I know at least Rudo and I will be hanging out in the Discord channel.
Yep.
Watching tomorrow's tournament game as well.
Yep.
So
sweet.
Should be fun. But yeah, I think we're out of here. So appreciate all y'all. I'll talk to you in my video in a couple hours after the game. I'm sure everyone else will see you around. Come join the DNVR Lounge if you want to vibe with us. Certainly tomorrow, but we're also in there chatting all the time. So until the next one, we will talk to you later.